My hand trembled as I clutched the delicate knife, its silver blade glinting under the cold, crystalline light of the chandelier overhead. The air was heavy, saturated with the intoxicating scent of freshly cut roses mingling with the sharp undertones of the expensive perfume I had worn for him, a gesture now rendered ironic. A thin veil of tension wove through the grand dining room, wrapping around me like a silken noose, while the cacophony of laughter and clinking glasses echoed distantly, a cruel reminder of the celebration underway just beyond the doors. It was our 30th wedding anniversary, or at least that's what everyone thought. The laughter and the murmurs of congratulations rang like hollow chimes, a sound that grated against my nerves as I stood, frozen in time. My heart raced, each beat a heavy thud in my chest as I turned, the knife still poised above the pristine cake, its layers perfectly arranged, a dessert that hid the sweetness of betrayal baked deep within it. The room sparkled with opulence, and yet, in that moment, it felt like a gilded cage, one I was ready to break free from. I took a deep breath, inhaling the rich notes of chocolate and vanilla from the cake, a stark contrast to the bitterness settling in my throat. I could almost taste the sensations swirling around me, but it wasn't the allure of the cake or the lavish decorations that captivated my senses. It was the moment of revelation looming just behind a veil. In the quiet of my chaos, I found clarity, steeped in the memories replaying like a forgotten film, each traumatic scene vivid, bright, and achingly painful. With each heartbeat, I was drawn back to those early years, the sacrifices I made for his success. The echoes of my laughter tangled with the faintest whispers of our shared dreams, long since faded into a misty backdrop of my married life. I recalled the endless nights hunched over kitchen counters, stirring pots of mac and cheese, so he'd have energy to study. How I'd subsisted on instant ramen, while he dined on extravagant dinners with his colleagues, figuring that his success would one day pay off. We would share the feast of our dreams, right? Yet here I stood, a mere shadow in his grand narrative. But those dreams began to corrode. He'd risen so high, yet I had been cast aside like yesterday's news. How naive I was to believe that my years of hard work and dedication would bind us tighter. I remembered the day I first caught a glimpse of the truth, a memory marred by the vivid sting of betrayal. It was as if I'd been struck by lightning, a revelation that illuminated all that I should have seen before. I had arrived home earlier that day, eager to surprise him with his favorite dessert. As I stepped through the door, the faint sound of laughter floated towards me. It was high-pitched, melodic, and distinctly feminine. My heart raced as I approached the den, each step heavier than the last, my pulse quickening with trepidation. The scent of his cologne lingered in the air, mixing with the sickly sweet aroma of her perfume, a combination that felt like venom on my tongue. And then I saw them, intertwined on the couch, oblivious to everything but their own pleasure, their skin practically glowing as if lit from within. I froze, the silver knife clattering at my feet, forgotten in that instant of pure, visceral shock. His arm draped casually across her shoulders, laughter spilling from his lips, a sound I had not heard directed towards me in years. Everything about that scene sawed through my stomach, the way the light cast delicate shadows over their faces, the warmth of her younger skin, contrasting sharply with my own reflection in the mirror that hung on the wall. Framing a life so beautiful on the surface yet rotten beneath, the fragile threads of my heart snapped, and I felt a surge of emotions swirling chaotically within me. Rage, despair, and the numbing chill of disbelief. He had called me a wrinkled hag, just the week prior, a careless jab flung amidst a storm of his own frustrations that left me reeling. I had tried to laugh it off, but the weight of those words clung to me like a stain, pulsating with every reminder of how I ceased to exist in his eyes. In that dreadful moment, as the light of their world enveloped them, I drifted into the shadows, feeling invisible yet so profoundly aware of the darkness residing within my heart. A warrior had lived in me, buried deep beneath layers of devotion and self-sacrifice. I had sacrificed not only my dreams but also my own identity, molding myself into the perfect wife, the perfect partner, only to become a relic in his grand tapestry. I had overdrawn my love, pouring everything into his success, while he sought only the thrill of youthful allure. Catching my breath, I retreated quietly, exiting the house burdened with my own thoughts. That night, in the solitude of my empty room, the weight of abandonment pooled in the corners of my heart, sparking a resolve I had yet to recognize. I would not be a victim any longer. They would face the consequences of their actions, whether they realized it or not. The betrayal I had endured for 3 decades could not go unpunished. A smirk slipped across my face as the melodies of their giggles echoed in my mind, and I made a silent vow. I would rise like the phoenix from the ashes of their betrayal. The clinking of champagne flutes pulled me from my reverie, and I begrudgingly gathered my thoughts, focusing on the present. If the world expected a humble celebration, they were about to witness the unwrapping of a new chapter in my life, a revelation nobody could foresee. Flowers adorned the room. The aroma of honeysuckles intertwined with floral prints practically danced under a soft golden hue. I scanned the room and noticed her, his mistress, across the room. Her long, sleek hair cascaded over her shoulders, glinting in the warm light. I caught her gaze briefly, and for a moment, we were engaged in a silent battle of wills. I could feel the fire ignite in my chest as I stared, a maelstrom of revenge brewing beneath my poised exterior. As the time dragged, I located my husband among the guests, absorbed in his self-importance, basking in the laughter of his friends while I masqueraded as the dutiful wife, all the while concocting my grand plan. I had set the stage. The pain would be exquisite, the revelations all the more glorious. I could almost hear the whispers of the universe guiding my next move, the knife no longer trembling in my hand, but rather clenching firmly in my grasp. I stepped towards him, each step deliberate yet graceful, allowing the sound of my heels to assert a powerful rhythm through the room's ambience. The world around us faded, dimmed by the scintillating aura of my confrontation. I took a deep breath and forced a serene smile onto my lips, masking the tempest inside. And as fate would have it, moments before I unveiled my revelation, my heart raced with fervor. The room, rich with laughter and vainglory, held an electric tension, an anticipation ignited by the truth of my discovery. That night would mark the beginning of a chapter in his life he'd never see coming. If you want to see how this wife destroys the traitor, subscribe now. The evening morphed into a masquerade of laughter and splendor as I wove myself deeper into the fabric of the gathering, playing my part to perfection. Guests flitted about me like delicate butterflies in the garden of deceit, their chatter mingling with the fizz of champagne, each pop of the bottle a cruel reminder of the fragility of my world. The flickering candlelight danced upon the ornate table settings, casting shadows that seemed to taunt me, a visual echo of the turmoil stirring within. I poured myself another glass, the glass cold against my palm, the crisp sound of liquid filling the goblet cutting through the clamor around me. I could feel the warmth of the alcohol rising within me, igniting a fire I hadn't anticipated as I surveyed my husband, his back hunched in a mix of pride and arrogance, engrossed in egocentric tales that I had grown to find tiresome. His laughter filled the air, jovial yet eerily hollow, a melody that once surged through my veins like a symphony, but now felt oppressive, a cacophony drowning me. In that haze of revelry, I spotted the silhouette of my ally, Karen, a friend turned investigative confidant, inching her way through the crowd with a sense of purpose in her gait. She stood out in a sea of gowns, her vibrant red dress an audacious statement against the pastel colors drowning the other guests. Her eyes, sharp as daggers, locked onto mine across the room, and she navigated her way through the throng with a determined intensity. "Come," she beckoned with a notable tilt of her head, a familiar invite that stoked the embers of my hope. I followed, the heels of my shoes tapping rhythmically against the marbled floor, the sound drowned momentarily by a surge of laughter before it settled into a hushed whisper as we slipped conveniently into a quieter corner of the expansive dining hall. "Sweetheart, you cannot let this continue," Karen murmured, her voice laced with concern tinted by urgency. Her subtle scent of jasmine mingled perfectly with the chocolates laid before us, illicitly sweet and syrupy, righteous indulgence masked within a comfortable intimacy. She reached out, gripping my arm with a fierce intensity, as if anchoring me to the earth. "You've got to fight back. You deserve so much more than this." An unwelcome shiver coursed through me, the remnants of my self-worth battered and bruised from years of dismissals and gaslighting. "He called me a wrinkled hag last week, Karen. You didn't hear how he laughed about it." A defeated sigh escaped me. The bitterness echoed in my words, drawing weary glances from the distant laughter. Don't you dare let him twist this reality, she hissed, fire igniting in her gaze. You've invested 30 years of your life into that man, and for what? So he can throw scraps of judgment at you like you're still food for his ego? It's time to turn the tide. Her urgency began to dull the sharp edges of my disbelief. I felt a flicker of something. Was it courage? An ember to feed my inner warrior? A moment of honesty unfolded like a courage-tinged blossom, sultry and intoxicating. I needed a battle plan, not continuation submerged in despair. I don't even know where to start, I admitted, a shuddering breath hinting at the vulnerability that had wrapped itself around me like a suffocating blanket. Start with the evidence, she urged, the intensity in her voice sharpening like a well-honed blade. You need material that decisively cuts through his lies. Gather the statements, track down anything that can help unravel his twisted facade. A picture speaks louder than the words of a traitor. The prospect of spying on him was laden with the weight of an adrenaline-fueled thrill and gnawing anxiety, a cocktail potent enough to stir the restless beast deep within. My hands itched with an unsated urge as if the prospect itself paved an unseen path towards freedom. I couldn't allow him to brand me with his demeaning scars any longer. With resolve forming a crystalline shield around my heart, I crafted a plan. Over the next few weeks, I would inhabit my home like a specter. I would be there, but not there, always observing, gathering fragments of evidence as if piecing together a jigsaw puzzle that had been lost behind time and neglect. Days turned into night as I covertly established a routine, my husband being engrossed in his boisterous life, blissfully unaware of the brewing storm just beyond his mansion walls. As night fell, the air hung perfumed with the scent of rich chocolate and a hint of orange blossom, the delicate sweetness hinting at a promise for retribution. The rhythms of the house generated a symphony of sound, a trance-like hum of silence, layered with the occasional tick of the clock, puncturing the stillness. In this ritualistic pursuit, I draped myself in shadows, slipping past the boundaries of my domestic prison, my hands feverishly sifting through digital documents, contacts, and bank statements, as if pulling a thread from a well-worn tapestry. I prowled through our shared accounts, pulling up financial statements with shaking fingers, piecing together expenditures, patterns, and evidence of his outright deception. Each email bearing her name felt like a dagger pressed mercilessly against my heart, each photo unveiling layers of the web he had carefully spun around me. I encountered messages between him and his mistress, full of honeyed words and intimate plans, each an added log fueling the fire of my indignation. "You're imagining things," he'd said to me, dismissing the evidence I'd presented with an elegance twisted by arrogance. "You're just being crazy, a jealous woman clinging to her youth." A part of me wanted to believe it, to accept insanity over betrayal, to think that I was overreacting. But Karen had seeded a truth within me that refused to die quietly, sparking a flickering flame of validation. I was not crazy, I was righteous. Those late nights blurring into early mornings turned into a canvas where I painted my resolve with strokes of vengeance and clarity. I revisited the memories stitched into the fabric of each betrayal, our shared laughter, the familial bonds once forged, now forgotten in a haze of deception. The scent of jasmine drifting through my workspace remained a steadfast marker of the resolve Karen instilled, wrapping around me, a warm embrace pushing me towards a future yet unbuilt. My veins pulsed with justified wrath as bank statements revealed lavish expenditures on gifts for her, extravagant dinners cloaked as business meetings, whispered lies about travel that held no truth. The pictures I collected screamed betrayal. They depicted tender moments distorted by infidelity, evidence I could wield to cleave the bonds of this illusion. I was no longer merely a shadow or a closet confidant. I was a warrior cloaked in the monochrome shades of deception, gathering the tools to rewrite my fate. As days bled into one another, invisible yet omnipresent, I began to formulate my strategy. Armed with logs of information, I silently brushed aside any toxins of self-doubt. With a thundering heart and clarity of purpose, I reached out to Karen, who was not only my ally, but my guide down this treacherous path. The evening grew heavy with anticipation as I pored over my collection of evidence, a reassuring presence standing steadfast beside me against the tide that threatened to drag me back into submission. The new life I envisioned teetered on the cusp of existence, waiting to burst forth like a phoenix rising from its own ashes, as I allowed the bitterness of betrayal to fuel me. It was time to rise from the shadows, to craft my own destiny. I would show him the strength born of years of silence, how every cut he thought had left me bleeding only shaped me into a sharper blade. The scheme was being forged in the dark, and soon enough, he would bear witness to my transformation. No longer the victim, I was becoming a force, resilient, determined, and most importantly, free. The night arrived draped in anticipation. An electric tension on the cusp of release simmered beneath the facade of normalcy that my husband had come to expect. It was a masquerade, a celebration held in his honor once again, an illusion I had skillfully cultivated over these past few months, each glance exchanged carrying the weight of my secret. Planning a lavish surprise birthday bash for him, I meticulously orchestrated every detail. Hours spent drafting invitations, selecting catering menus, and arranging floral displays infused the air with hints of lavender and fresh lilies, all foreshadowing the evening that would unravel the very fabric of his deception. As guests began to congregate underneath the opulent crystal chandeliers, the rich aroma of whiskey mingled with the sweet notes of chocolate mousse filling the room, creating a tantalizing bouquet that almost felt oddly celebratory against the backdrop of my impending revelation. Chatter and laughter echoed through the grand hall, yet it fell distant to me, merely the hum of a world unaware of the reckoning I was about to unleash. I stood momentarily hidden behind a cluster of guests, catching sight of him and the mistress I once tolerated, her hair cascading over one shoulder, glinting in the warm glow of the lights like liquid gold. They exchanged stolen glances filled with clandestine promises, as if the very air between them crackled with illicit energy. The richness of the moment wrapped around me, and an unexpected boldness flowed through my veins, igniting every cell within. This was my stage, the moment I had been waiting for, one where I would unveil not only the truth of his betrayals, but also the depths of my own transformation. Tonight, masked behind a veil of fragility, I would be the instrument of his demise. My heart, once broken and battered, was now fortified. As the clock approached 8, the room buzzed with jubilant energy, enveloping us like a thick fog, and I could feel the pulse of excitement from our guests. I clasped the microphone firmly, coupled with the warmth of the moment pressing against my palms with each careful breath I took, the anticipation tightening like a noose around my heart. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, my voice calm yet elevated, echoing over the clinking of glasses and laughter that rippled through the air. "Thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate the man I've shared 30 years of my life with, my husband, Jonathan." Cheers erupted from the audience, their applause like a playful breeze dancing against my skin, a contrast to the tempest raging within. I flashed a perfunctory smile, an external mask hiding my internal warfare, as I caught Jonathan's gaze through the crowd. He stood there, waist-deep in the attention he reveled in, a smirk plastered across his face, a facade of confidence that would soon erode like sand beneath a rising tide. Over the years, we've created memories, so many, in fact, that come flooding back like a nostalgic tide, I continued, letting my voice simmer low as unrelenting eyes locked onto mine. Captivated, the air was thick with curiosity, and I momentarily savored the hush that settled upon the room, pregnant with an unnatural silence that hinted at what was to come. Of course, not all memories are sweet. I shifted my tone slightly, allowing a gravity to settle amongst the audience, the weight of my words building the anticipation further. In fact, some are downright painful. A ripple of confusion spread through the crowd, yet I could sense an undercurrent of intrigue weaving through their murmurs. Jonathan's brows knit together, the light in his eyes dimming as realization began to seep through the veil of my deception. I took a step closer to the edge of the raised platform, the fabric of my gown shimmering like a canvas coming alive under the dim lighting, and drew forth a familiar stack of documents. With a flourish, I revealed what I had meticulously collected: financial logs, screenshots, and intimate emails. The blueprint of his disloyalty laid bare. "This is not merely a birthday celebration. Tonight, you will witness the breaking of illusions," I declared, lifting the papers high to display their damning evidence before the crowd. The flicker of polished chandeliers caught the reflection of shocked faces, gasps intermingling with the soft clanging of glassware, as the weight of reality plummeted like an anchor. "Upon digging through our shared life, I discovered the extent of your betrayal, Jonathan," I spoke, locking eyes with him, savoring the dawning realization that began to dawn on his face, a portrait painted with disbelief, horror, and regret. You transformed my labor into your comfort, and your lies into a luxurious respite. Stunned silence blanketed the room. The air hung thick, palpable as guests exchanged incredulous glances. Relishing the confusion, I pressed on, compelled by the rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins like fire. I used to believe that love was enough, that dedication and sacrifice would knit our lives together. But love can unravel just as easily when tangled with intent and greed. With each revelation, my heart pulsed with a weightless rush. The rush of reclaiming my power in front of all those who had once admired our partnership. There were countless dinners where I feigned delight while filling my plate with scraps of your whims, just for you to dine with your mistress. The words, heavy with pain, broke the stillness. The crowd reacted, witnessing the raw human emotion cloaked in elegance, catching a hint of the shadows that had lain hidden beneath the surface of my carefully painted life. Each business trip you took, each whispered promise you made to her, echoed in the silence I endured back home. I continued, pushing through the clenching pain within me, fueled by an ire that begged to be expressed. I believed I was being easygoing. I believed that my selflessness would someday bring me gifts instead of heartache. But the truth is, you loved being adored, the pursuer, while I became the mature wife to be neglected, a ghost in our own life. Gasps raced around the room as his face began to pale, eyes darting toward the exits, searching for escape. My pulse quickened, harmonizing with the distant hum of chaos beginning to sweep through the crowd, rising like a tidal wave ready to engulf him. I stepped off the platform, the heels of my shoes creating an exhilarating cadence against the tiled floor, the sound of reckoning. And tonight, I unveil the penultimate act of justice, I announced, raising a folder toward the crowd, the pages trembling ever so slightly in my hands, saturated with evidence I once held back, the documents that will cost you everything. With the flick of my wrist, I disengaged the cords of my restraint, unveiling the images laced with intimacy, capturing moments that betrayed the sanctity of our union. Each laugh, each embrace, a dagger that would pierce the heart of his farce. I played the funds exposed for travel, dinners of excess, and extravagant gifts lavishly lavished on her, all of which I had funded with our joint resources. The gathering erupted into chaos, discord enveloping the room like a vicious thunderstorm. Muffled whispers turned to shouts, incredulous voices punctuating the heavy atmosphere, while Jonathan's face morphed from shock into fury, shifting his gaze from guests to me with trembling disbelief shadowed by rage. "After all I provided for you, you dare to humiliate me?" he shouted, voice cracking as a tide of defiance washed over him, struggling to regain control of the narrative. The anger fell from his lips like broken glass, shards glinting in the harsh lights, the predator now trapped under the gaze of a watching crowd, whose scrutiny felt intoxicating. "Humiliation was never my goal, Jonathan. Just a reminder that those who play with lives inevitably unravel their threads," I fired back, my words cascading like a waterfall, the momentum only stoking my conviction. "You see, I have taken the income from your pension to fund my new beginning, my journey to freedom, a life devoid of shadows and betrayal, while you stand here half a man in front of those who once revered you." The revelations ricocheted throughout the hall. Laughter came not only from shared tidbits of joy, but now became the laughter of shared exclamations of triumph, an audience engulfed in the revelation of my inner strength. All those years of sacrifice washed to the side as the truth emerged, a phoenix of liberation rising from the ashes of contempt. "But they'll leave you," he yelled back, desperation seeping into his tone, as if clinging to the last whispers of self-protection. "You think this will bring you anything but shame?" The room leaned forward, breath suspended, pulses racing, the silence, thick and heavy, as I glanced around at the sea of sympathetic faces. Shame? No, Jonathan. Shame was me, standing in the shadows all these years. This, I gestured to the audience now enthralled by my epic of liberation, is vindication. So, if you believe in justice, then say it with me. The audience erupted in a chorus of catcalls and approving nods as I captured their eyes, delighting myself in the pride that radiated from their expressions. "Let's toast to the resilience of those hurt but not defeated," I commanded, raising my glass in defiance, a visceral echo of empowerment flowing through every individual in that moment. Jonathan, consumed by shock, staggered back before regaining composure. The mask of anger slipped as layer after layer caught on the bitterness of truth, the life he had weaved in darkness crumbling like delicate sandcastles upon the shore. Amidst the cacophony of cheers and gasps, he shrank, no longer the lion, but a cornered beast, set against a relentless tide, a fitting reminder of the truth I had uncovered. As the celebration erupted around me, rays of laughter glimmering through the enveloping shadows, I beamed amidst the congregation, armed with not only evidence but pride, an unyielding resolve forged from fires of betrayal. "Would you have waited this long?" I murmured just beyond the microphone, knowing that the answer would echo a bittersweet recognition across the audience as they relished in the palpable thrill of justice served. The air felt lighter now that the weight of deception had been pulled from beneath me, as if I could almost taste the freedom that wafted around me on an ephemeral breeze. It had been 6 months since I stood before that crowd, resolute and unyielding, watching the charade of my life unravel in front of witnesses. The aftermath of that explosive night had been nothing short of sublime, a metamorphosis wholly unexpected yet fiercely empowering. In the moments following my liberation, I was swept into a new life, one where shadows could not chase me as they once did. My heart, long dulled by neglect, thrummed with excitement and determination. I settled into an apartment many miles away from the oppressive weight of my former home, its crisp white walls and large windows capturing the morning sun in a warm embrace, not unlike the hug of a long-lost friend, shimmering with the promise of something new. The smell of fresh paint, mixed with the lingering aroma of coffee, filled my new sanctuary. Each morning I'd awaken to scent and light, reminding me that my life was mine again, finally devoid of burdens that had long stolen my joy. As I furnished my new space, I meticulously chose each piece, from the soft, velvet blue sofas that invitingly cradled the body to the delicate lace curtains that fluttered at the bid of a gentle wind, each choice imbued with purpose, becoming a reflection of my rebirth. I could hear the faint whir of traffic outside, and the laughter of children playing in the park below, every sound wrapping around me like a blanket of warmth, an enveloping reassurance that life could be, and was, beautiful. Of course, life moved on for Jonathan too, even as the world he built crumbled around him. Those who had once heralded him as a titan in his field now turned their backs, whispers of betrayed by his own arrogance, trailing behind him like shadows. The company he had built with hubris slowly filed for bankruptcy. The press delighted in broadcasting the fall of this arrogant king. Flaking paint, dilapidated furniture, and the choking scent of stale cigarettes now filled the home that once held grandeur and laughter. The irony was ripe. They had once adored him, but now, as whispers unfolded, he became a mere name on the lips of those who once celebrated his successes, a pariah masked by memories of a tarnished empire. I couldn't help but smile, as if the universe itself had crafted a poetic ending to a long-winded tale. With each fluttering leaf that chased the summer breeze, I became aware of his dwindling state. Jonathan found himself working odd jobs, delivery tasks filled with incompetence, where he donned an ill-fitting uniform, each stain a testament to failure. An equally ill-fated affair with his mistress only deepened his shame, as she steadily siphoned the last remnants of his wealth, trading her affections to anyone willing to fill the void of insecurity after the money dried up. It was a Game of Thrones where treachery reigned, but she ultimately fled, bleeding him dry one last time before vanishing into thin air, having made her escape once he had nothing left to offer but years of negligence. Her clutches around his heart were replaced with disdain, leaving Jonathan utterly alone in a house filled with murky corners and unsightly shadows. Every night, he would look out from his empty windows, eyes clouded with despair, as the moonlight painted the walls of the life he could no longer hold on to. I envisioned those melancholy nights, the weight of his solitude draping over him like a heavy fog, an image dripping with poetic irony. Meanwhile, I blossomed into my new life like the vibrant orchids that adorned my windowsill, their sweet scent woven into the fabric of my day. No longer shackled, I embraced the bitterness of my past instead of clutching it close, weaving it into something far more beautiful. I ventured into the world anew. A tight-knit community welcomed me with open arms, and the laughter of friends soon surrounded me as I hosted gatherings filled with chamomile tea, flowing from delicate porcelain cups, and laughter echoing against the walls. Within months, I transformed, not just on the outside but from within. My once weary soul now shimmered with vitality. The years of sacrifice had etched stories into the lines of my skin, and I found beauty within those markings, alive with every ounce of determination and every battle fought. The expensive skincare serums I indulged in now accentuated my features. The smells of lavender oils blended with the whiff of the night-blooming jasmine on my terrace, evoking a sense of comfort in the moonlit evenings. The nights occasionally brought pangs of nostalgia, but never without a glimmer of buoyancy. The darkness that once seemed formidable now transformed into a comforting solitude, allowing space for reflection, laughter with newfound friends, and moments of blissful peace. Weeks turned into months, and I often sat in my living room, drinking a lush Merlot that caressed my palate with hints of dark berries, a stark contrast to the life-fraying cocktails I'd endured in his presence. The walls of my new home framed candid photographs where I celebrated life's unfolding secrets, hiking alongside welcoming friends, conquering new culinary pursuits, and immersing myself in the joy of gardening. I poured my heart and soul into every venture, invigorating each moment with intention. While the faint murmurs of my past faded gradually into echoes, I eventually began to flourish in my career. An unexpected turn of events I veered toward with sheer confidence. The skills I acquired through my years of displacement became the pulse that promised to raise my profile in the workplace. I networked voraciously, the smell of freshly brewed coffee fueling conversations that danced long into the evening. The place I once felt invisible became the canvas for the shades of independence I painted with flair. With every meeting and every project, I acquired elements that reaffirmed that I was, indeed, not only deserving, but destined for greatness. My transformation had its roots entwined within liberation, drawing strength from the shackles cast aside. As I fashioned my life anew, an aroma of fresh opportunities beckoning, one pivotal day arose. Encircled by laughter over brunch with friends, a breeze wafted through, carrying echoes of hope and opportunity, where we frequently shared stories of success and dreams. Then came an unexpected opportunity. A renowned company sought a new face to guide them down uncharted territories of marketing, and I seized the moment with exhilaration. The memory of knowing that once I was merely the caretaker of a crumbling legacy filled me with gratitude as I embarked on this new chapter. Through meticulous preparation, late nights spent poring over vision boards and outcomes, I embraced the risk, each calculated step imbuing me with clarity, as the scent of freshly blooming roses conquered my workspace in vibrant bursts of hope. As weeks rolled on, and the new dawn succeeded each previous day, I soon settled into this new role, every step a conquest leading me toward potential riches, feelings of satisfaction, and peace too long sought for, but now found. The echoes from my past would stay with me, not as scars, but as a roadmap to the boundless horizons ahead, colored by every misstep that had led me to where I now soared. And as summer began to fade, I allowed myself the space to dream, picturing travels yet taken, new horizons that beckoned, and friends yet meet. My laughter mingled with the sense of autumn's embrace, while thoughts of past betrayals rolled in like whispering winds, warming my heart, yet gently reminding me of the fierce warrior that had risen from the ashes of the memories I had cast aside. Then something flickered in the distance. A tantalizing endeavor lay just beyond the horizon, a project filled with the overflow of creativity and excitement, a chance to act as a mentor to others like myself, who had traversed the darkened paths of betrayal, yearning to rise above the ashes of their grief. It seemed inevitable, each twinkle of fate piquing my excitement further. As anticipation simmered within me, I could almost hear the universe chime, a reminder that destiny had not only freed me, but had opened the door for others seeking solace and empowerment to rise, talons ready to soar. Just wait until you hear the story of a woman who faked her own death to escape. It's wild, I murmured to Karen as she settled in beside me one evening, the night wrapping around us like a warm shawl. The thought ignited mischievous laughter between us, as my spirits soared with delight at navigating this newfound community I now cherished. In my heart, I knew there were myriad stories just waiting to unfold, even more captivating adventures lurking in the realms of experience I hadn't yet dared to touch. And as the stars flickered celestial promises above, I was ready to dip my toes into that endless sea of possibilities.